Medina County said there was nothing new, but the documents say otherwise. Handwritten notes, covert cameras, political silence, and investigative steps the public almost never saw. Today, Tentacle Nation, the receipts speak for themselves. Listen up, Tentacle Nation. If you want to keep this roll call tight, head over to www.theinfamousexchief.com. That's Command Central. From there, you can slide into Patreon. It's a monthly subscription with exclusive drops at least once a month, or lurk for free just to jump in on the polls and pretend you had a say. Discord. That's where the real chatter goes down. Think of it like the squad room. The coffee's cold, the jokes are bad, but everyone's running their mouth. And the best part, you don't need some shiny Facebook profile. You can show up as Detective Donut or Sergeant Snark or Detective Deberswitch if you want. Nobody cares. Just get in and start talking. Hit the links for YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Apple Podcasts. That's standard issue stuff right there. Old school? Not a problem. Email me. Feeling paranoid? Use Signal. Signal it over. Encrypted tighter than a rookie's first report. Want your voice on the record? SpeakPipe. Leave me a voicemail. If it doesn't sound like you're 3 sheets to the wind, I might even use it. Got a tip on a case? Fill out the tip sheet. Be as quiet or loud as you want. Do I burn sources? Ask him. Oh, wait, you can't. Want me to cover a case? Drop it under case consideration. Or keep it simple. Buy me a coffee and grab me a Brew Loud Be Heard mug. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a shift briefing. Be loud, be heard, shake the system until the truth falls out. I'm Scott Gardner, former cop, former detective, former chief. I have lived on both sides of the law, and this is the infamous ex-chief. Here we don't deal in rumors, we deal in narratives handed down from officials. We deal in documentation, timelines, and hard evidence, and when something doesn't add up, we say it loudly. Tentacle Nation, we need to talk. Before we get too far into this, I want to remind everyone of something that sets the infamous ex-chief apart from every other platform covering this case. And that's not a dig at the OG podcast, Invisible Ships. You're still a number one in my book. Everything we do here is backed up with receipts, and that's why Tentacle Nation keeps growing. My mindset has always been simple. 1,000 detectives are better than just me, one. And together, we've built what is almost certainly the most comprehensive public archive of the Bryon Macron case. Not just for me, for all of you. Lately, there's been some buzz from people claiming that others don't know what they're talking about because they supposedly haven't seen the unredacted reports. Yet, strangely, these same people never say what in those unredacted reports is different, or how they supposedly saw them without violating public records law. And honestly, their argument doesn't even make sense. Redacted or not, you still see the report. The content is the content, and anything legitimately removed under law has no bearing on the investigative competence or incompetence that the reports reveal. So whatever they're implying, I have no idea, but I will tell you this. I'm confident that Tentacle Nation and I have the most complete set of publicly available records on this case. And you have access to every single one of them, which is a perfect segue. So let's pause for a moment and show folks how to get into the Tentacle Nation Discover server. Inside the server, you'll find all the records, the original releases, the organized folders, and now the 2 newly scanned boxes of material. And yes, some documents repeat. Yes, you'll see duplication. But buried in those stacks are dozens of pieces of new information that were never released before. So get into Discord and let's see the reports. So you do that. Right here we have www.theinfamousexchief.com, and I'll make sure that I put a QR code that you can scan also right here, which will lead you to that page. And on the page here, if you come and you find this little icon right here, That is the Discord icon. You simply just click, boom, bada bang, on that icon, and you will get this. Now, you will accept the invite by hitting accept the invite. It's going to open Discord. And from here, I have a couple of different Discords. So, you want to go to the infamous ex-chief, obviously here. Go into, scroll down on this left side. These are general discussion areas. All right. If you come down to case files, you will see Bryon Macron. You click on the Bryon Macron case file, and you will see right here Medina County Sheriff's Office, BCI's, Medina County Public Prosecutor, or Medina County Prosecutor's Office, Village Inn videos. You have all of these records, but right here we're focusing on the public records from Medina County Sheriff's Office. So if you click here, this pops up, which was already popped up as the first one anyways. You simply just click on this URL right here, and it's going to launch you into the Dropbox, right? Now, I've tried to organize it a little better. It was sort of confusing at first, all right? You go into Medina County or MCSO, you click it twice, all right? Now, these are the dates that they released the records to me. Some of these folders here, final dump, bulk records release, this date, response. These boxes or these folders around here, some do have duplicate records. For whatever reason, they were sending me the same records over and over in certain instances. These last couple of dumps are correct. So if you look at November 4th, I have them from the boxes, and number 18th from the boxes, that is the newest one. All right, if you just click in here, all right, you have access to all of these files. Now I will be discussing, so I'm just going to type it up here. I will be discussing a file called Macron.pdf. So we will be discussing that Macron.pdf file coming up in this episode. But I wanted to make sure that everybody was up to speed. Seems like every time I give a tutorial of Discord, I get some folks that didn't quite understand it previously, and it helped them out. So I apologize if we're going back over it for those people that are already Discord savvy. So let's get into this, because once again, the Medina County Sheriff's Office put out a public claim, and I'm talking from several months ago, that simply does not match reality. Sheriff Grice said the newest public records release contained nothing new. And that statement is disingenuous. What I received in this drop contains multiple documents that, to my knowledge, have never been released before. Not summarized in a report, not scanned in a file, not referenced anywhere. These are raw, handwritten notes. Entire conversations, leads, and observations that have never made it into any official documentation. For those who don't come from law enforcement, let me explain just how abnormal this is. In any legitimate investigation, especially when involving of a missing township trustee who later turns up deceased with 6 sharp force injuries, every action gets documented. Every call, every contact, every conversation, every scene visit, every trip to the medical examiner's office, it all becomes a supplemental report. It's basic investigative procedure. So, giving you some examples. When you go to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner, you write a supplemental. You list the time you arrived, who was there, when you left, and the preliminary statement from the pathologist. They'll tell you those aren't final conclusions, and that's fine. You still document what they said. If you make a phone call, you write a supplement. If you receive a phone call, you write a supplement. This is not advanced police work. It's the bare minimum. But in the Bryon Macron case, we're seeing entire conversations only captured as shorthand scribbles on the corner of a notepad, the kind of quick field notes you later turn into a real report. Except the real reports never happen. So that raises the obvious question. If these conversations only survived as half-legible notes, what conversations never made it onto paper at all. Because what's in this new batch, yes, new, despite what Sheriff Grace claimed, is a level of investigative sloppiness I've rarely seen in a case this big. And that's where we begin today. Now, before we move deeper into this update, we have to touch on one topic that has suddenly become very hot again: the covert cameras. This subject has resurfaced fast and loudly. We've already heard directly from several firefighters about these cameras, and thanks to a person who only goes by the name of Kickback Tommy, I now have additional individuals who want to speak with me about them as well. So we need to circle back. If you're new or if you don't remember the details, here's a quick recap of what we know so far. Covert cameras were confirmed inside the fire stations of both Lafayette Township and Chippewa Lake. These weren't obvious security cameras. These were hidden pinhole-style devices placed inside the fire department buildings. As for the administration building, we do not know yet whether covert cameras were installed there. Several firefighters and township sources have reported unexplained wiring and unusual cabling inside the admin building, but no one has confirmed whether these were tied to covert cameras or legitimate equipment or something else entirely. Their existence was not openly discussed. Multiple township employees and firefighters stated they had no idea cameras were installed or who authorized them. The issue first surfaced publicly through the July 2023 interview materials and later the Paticus letter, Attorney Paticus. Those documents referenced hidden cameras inside the township building and connected them to questionable spending, unclear authorization, and unexplained invoices involving township officials. One firefighter, Wilfong, I think that was the name that he went by for the day, described these cameras as unusual and concerning. He mentioned them in a way that made it clear this was not standard township practice. And Brad Winters, former chief, also raised concerns that fit this same pattern. While he didn't explicitly say covert cameras, he spoke about unexplained equipment, questionable installations, and things happening inside the building that made firefighters uncomfortable. Concerns that line up directly with what others had described. And most importantly, almost none of this was documented in any meaningful way in official investigative reports. Not by the township, not by Medina County Sheriff's Office, beyond a single vague line acknowledging the existence of a recording system. Not by BCI. Nothing that actually explains what their systems were, who installed them, what footage existed, or why it wasn't preserved. That's where we currently stand and why this is resurfacing now. But there's another layer here, and it's one the public absolutely needs to understand. We didn't even learn about these covert cameras until the invoices started popping up. The township wasn't broadcasting this. There was no announcement, no policy discussion, no disclosure. Instead, these charges quietly appeared in financial records. Only then did vague, uncomfortable references start showing up in township board meetings. Not explanations, just hints, hush-hush mentions, quick topic changes, trustees acting like they were discussing something everyone already knew about, except no one actually did. And that brings us to the firefighters. Multiple firefighters told me that they stumbled across these hidden cameras by accident. They weren't informed, they weren't trained, they weren't even told such a system existed. And when they discovered them, they were disciplined officially for damaging the cameras. Think about that. Cameras they didn't know existed, cameras no one explained, cameras no one authorized publicly, cameras installed without notifying the very people working in those buildings. And it gets worse. Every firefighter I've spoken with, every single one, told me they were later threatened that if they ever talked about these cameras, it would be to their own peril. This isn't normal. This isn't professional. This isn't even remotely acceptable in a government setting. Hidden devices, unexplained wiring, discipline for discovering them, and threats for speaking out about them. All while no investigative body ever documented the existence, purpose, or authorization of these cameras. This is why the topic refuses to die, because people remember what happened and they were warned not to talk about it. Now, let's address another piece of this puzzle, one that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention. Buried in the Medina County Sheriff's Office report is a vague but important line involving surveillance footage. Detective Cartwright wrote, "They installed a recording system at fire station number 1. They had not yet been trained in the system, but they were willing to allow us to take possession of the recorder and view/download the footage. The recorder was downloaded on December 19th and viewed. And quote, there was no relevant footage on the system, end quote. So this raises several issues. There's no documented supplement describing what actually was on the footage. No timestamps, no angles, no description of what was visible. No details on retention or overwriting. We don't know whether the system was functioning, partially installed, or misconfigured. The report says they had not been trained, which suggests incomplete setup. We don't know what Cartwright was looking for or what he dismissed. Was he searching for Bryon? A suspect vehicle? Activity inside the station? We have no idea. No copy of this footage appears anywhere in the case file. Not in the Medina County Sheriff's Office records and not in BCI's records. Not in any property log. And this recorder is separate from the covert camera issue, yet it also involves an unexplained surveillance system. This single line is the only evidence that this footage was ever reviewed, and it leaves more questions than answers. It fits the same pattern we keep seeing. Critical investigative steps mentioned vaguely, without documentation, without follow-through, and without any record for outside review. And that was until now, because buried on page 390 of a 1,565-page scanned document labeled Macron.pdf, we finally see something that changes the landscape of this covert camera issue. A handwritten note, almost certainly from an investigator's field pad, that reads, hidden cameras in township, TWSP. Don't know if she involved in putting them. She won't comment because in year of re-election time. Let that sink in for a second. This is the first and only place in the entire case file where the hidden cameras are explicitly referenced by name. Township level involvement is implied. A female trustee is suggested as being connected to them, and she won't comment because it's re-election season. The note confirms three critical things. Number one, investigators knew about hidden cameras long before any invoices surfaced. Number two, they directly associated those cameras with township leadership, Linda Bowers. Number three, someone flat out refused to talk about them, Linda Bowers, for political reasons. This one scrap of handwriting never converted into a supplement, never referenced in any report, never acknowledged publicly, proves that the covert camera issue wasn't just some quiet firefighter rumor. It was known, it was discussed, and someone in power didn't want to talk about it. This is exactly why the handwritten notes matter, because they show us what the official reports conveniently left out. And since we're talking about updates, we need to add one more piece, because this next document is just as puzzling. On page 389 of that same document, Macron.pdf file, there's another page of handwritten notes. And I'm going to be honest with you, Tentacle Nation, this one is messy, cryptic, and wide open to interpretation. So I'm putting the challenge to all of you, our thousands of detectives, because this is exactly why this platform works. We solve things together. Here's what we have. A page of scratch-style investigative notes mentioning multiple names connected to Bryon's social circle. A reference to Linda Bowers' name coming up in research. A line about Linda having a photo of Bryon wearing a jacket. Several references to Facebook posts and repeated mentions of someone saying Bryon was being made into a puppet. It's disorganized, it's incomplete, just like the other field notepads. None of this appears in any official report. So here's the ask. Tentacle Nation, a look at page 389. I'll put it up here on the screen, obviously. It's in the Discord server, and tell me what you make of these notes. If these lines mean something to you, if you recognize a name, a reference, a Facebook post, anything, drop it in the discussion channel. Your insight may connect dots we don't even realize are connected yet. This is how we crowdsource the truth. This is how we out-investigated an entire county, and this is exactly why we back everything with those receipts. Now, before we wrap this update segment, there's one more document I want to touch on. I've only gone through this cursory, meaning the new dumps that happened, both of these boxes. I'll fully dissect them in a dedicated episode, but it's significant enough that it deserves to be mentioned now. On top of everything we just covered, the covert cameras, the firefighters' discipline, the political silence, and the handwritten notes, we now have a 2018 email from Paul Hartman to Victoria Macron and copied to Charlie Snyder with BCI. This email is tied directly to the claim Medina County pushed for years that Bryon Macron searched for violent self-harm topics online. According to this email, Hartman reviewed the exported Google archive himself and states he identified the supposed troubling websites that the Medina County Sheriff's Office used to justify their theory. He examined the raw Google archive from October to December of 2016, and he found absolutely no search terms matching any of the topics in Bryon's actual search history. His conclusion, Bryon didn't search for any of these sites, not one. Hartman suggests those pages were likely clicked from email links, things like Flipboard, Quora, or automated news aggregators, not by Bryon himself. This email doesn't solve the case, but it pokes another hole in the narrative Medina County built. And it's something I'll be diving into more thoroughly once I organize the digital forensics of this file. For now, the most relevant update remains the same. Medina County officials knew about the covert cameras years ago and failed to question Linda Bowers about them. Before I close this update, I want to take a moment to thank all of you genuinely for your continued support. From everyone donating through Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, to those picking up Tentacle Nation coffee mugs, to my monthly Patreon supporters, you have no idea how much that support means. And yes, there are still a few spots left for the founding Patreon tentacles. I'm capping it at the first 25, and I plan on doing something special to recognize the entire founding group collectively. Now, speaking of support, I've saved this next shout out for this episode because when it happened, I was recording the North Royalton OVI DUI segment, and it would have felt like the wrong moment to mention it. But it deserves recognition. A member of Tentacle Nation sent me a single barrel owner signed bottle of bourbon from Castle and Key. I'm trying to find the signature here. That was one of the most thoughtful gestures I've ever received since starting the infamous ex-chief. I won't call them out by name unless they want to be identified, but you know who you are, and I appreciate you. And support like that remind me Tentacle Nation isn't just an audience. You're part of this investigation, and you're part of this mission. And I'm grateful for every single one of you. Be loud, be heard, shake the system until the truth falls out.